And joining us right now is the former CKE restaurant CEO and former Labor Secretary nominee, Andy Puzder. Andy, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you, Maria. Thanks for having me on.
You had that moment when you were the nominee for the Labor Department to see the ugliness in terms of the Democrats pushing back on everything the president's trying to accomplish here. How do you see it?
Well, are you talking about with respect to the ObamaCare bill?
Yeah, but I also want to ask you, obviously, about the fiduciary rule, and we're going to get to that during this interview. But go ahead, sir.
Well, there does seem to be incredible resistance in Washington, D.C. to anything the president wants to do, and I think he's doing what any CEO would do. He's using every opportunity to bring people to the table, and I think these payments that he's been talking about withholding that reduce the deductibles, I think that's a great way to get Democrats to start talking. He's got to get people in his own party to start talking, too, and I don't think any of them want to go home and have constituents come up to him complaining that they've lost these payments because of Republican action. So I think the president is doing what he needs to do to get people back to the table on the ACA.
Was that one of the reasons that you didn't go forward because of pushback from the left?
Well, there was a lot of pushback from the left. My problem was I lost some support on the right when I didn't have enough Republicans. You lose. You know, there were two Republicans that we knew pretty much we were going to lose anyway. They didn't support Betsy DeVos. Losing one more Republican meant that I wouldn't get the nomination. So when I found out that we had lost another Republican, not wanting to tilted windmills, I withdrew. But I think a lot of that was due to pressure from the left. You know, people went home. My hearing kept getting dragged out because the Office of Government Ethics wouldn't negotiate, wouldn't approve our ethics filings, which I'd filed in early January. So it got delayed 4 or 5 weeks, and during that period of time, the left really came down hard on me once Betsy DeVos was approved or was confirmed, and when they started to feel some Republicans maybe wavering, they came on even harder. So I think, but it was the loss of Republicans that hurt, but I think it was pressure from the left.
Wow.
Andy, nice to have you on.
Hey, good to see you, Robert.
With respect to what the president and Maria spoke about yesterday, I was taken aback that he wants to now push forward with health care.
Let's run that soundbite, Robert, because he said that he wants to tackle health care before tax reform in that exclusive interview earlier this week. And people are just worried that tax reform is hostage to health care. Listen to this, Andy.
But because I'm saving a tremendous amount, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars we're saving on health care. So we're going to have a much better plan than Obamacare, which is failing. Tax reform is going to be tough, but it won't be as tough as health care. Health care is very, very difficult. Now, if it doesn't happen fast enough, I'll start the taxes. But the tax reform and the tax cuts are better if I can do health care first.
Robert.
Andy, so the question I was going to say, yes, no question for the president. If he could get health care passed, it brings $900 billion forward with respect to his tax overhaul. But the chances of that being threading the needle, as you said, based where moderate Republicans are and Democrats and the Freedom Caucus, is really very slim. My recommendation would be let's get something passed legislatively, either tax reform or a real infrastructure bill. And now I'm very nervous that this won't get done in 2017 if we start going back at health care. What's your view on this?
Well, first of all, I'd agree with you, but I try and look at it, I think, maybe the way the president's looking at it, which is what's really caused, this is a populist president, and while from a political perspective you'd like to get something accomplished, like infrastructure or taxes, from an economic or a business perspective you'd like something done like infrastructure or taxes. But what's really going to hurt the American people? What's going to hurt working class and lower middle class people? And it's this prolonged collapse of Obamacare. These, premiums are way, way up. As you know, they went up about 7% last year. They're going to go up 25% this year. And the premiums are on top of deductibles. So if you're paying $6,000 a year in premiums and you've got a $5,000 deductible, you're paying $11,000 before you get any benefit from your insurance policy. So I think what the president wants to do, and again, being a populist president, is to try and address the issue that's going to cause the most pain to working and middle-class Americans. So I understand that. I'd love to have the business and the political solution, but I think there's a lot of sense to what he's talking about when he talks about trying to end the pain of Obamacare. And look, the Democrats should get the blame for this, but the longer it lasts, the more Republicans are going to get the blame for it. They're going to go home, they're going to see their constituents, and there's going to be problems.
And that's what you always say. They're going to own it.
Yeah, but not the Democrats. You mentioned, Andy, it's Steger McDowell, the Republicans who didn't get on board with your nomination. How much responsibility and how much blame do a lot of these Republicans deserve for not pushing ahead with this very pro-growth agenda from the White House?
They deserve a lot of the blame. And the problem with the Republican Party right now is that we've been in the minority. We've had President Obama for so long, and we were in the minority before that, that we really don't understand how you govern. We really don't understand the benefits of moving the ball down the field. Maybe not the perfect bill, but the bill that gets the ball down the field, like the Democrats did with Obamacare. I got to tell you, Joe Manchin and Bernie Sanders were not on the same page on Obamacare, but they both had enough sense to vote for it. They both moved that ball down the field. Republicans have a very difficult time doing that, and it's hurting them. It's hurting them a lot.
You're right. They stick to the principles, and they fight over it.
Andy, we just had the recent labor numbers last week, and February came in at under 100,000. One of the reasons I keep hyping infrastructure, it's the fastest multiplier of GDP. It's the best for wages, jobs. And, you know, yes, we had a very good January. We had a little slowdown in February. I mean, if we don't start going back to 250 plus and we stay at where we were in February, then you have to really start thinking about a jobs bill again. And at the end of the day, the one thing that I think a lot of the business community like about this president is his pro-business, his jobs and wage approach. And I think that this health care, you know, once again, going back to it, it's scrambling a lot of what the country wants. The country really wants jobs and wages. Do you get concerned after seeing the last numbers?
Well, you know, the last numbers were really kind of a battle between two surveys. You're right, the establishment survey showed that we did not generate the number of jobs we needed. But if you look at the household survey, which is what produces, as your viewers know, it's what produces the unemployment rate, we had 472,000 more people employed and 365,000 fewer people unemployed. The unemployment rate went down, and it went down for the right reasons. The labor participation rate didn't decline, which normally causes a reduction in the unemployment rate, but it doesn't indicate labor market strength. The labor participation rate held steady, and the percentage of the population that's employed was at highs we hadn't seen since February of 2009 with respect to the general population, and October of 2008 with prime working age Americans, 24 to 55-year-old Americans. So if you look at the household survey, the numbers were really good. The problem is the establishment survey didn't produce the kind of number we like, but that wasn't even in line with the ADP report, which did show the kind of job growth that we want to see. So I think we need a few more months to know whether those job numbers really are going in the right direction or not. But we do need, look, we always need economic stimulus. We need job stimulus. We've had 8 years of basically 2% GDP growth. That can't continue. But I do understand why the president wants to get Obamacare fixed first. It's something that could be devastating to working and middle-class Americans, and those are the people that put him in office, and he needs to be very focused on what they need.
All right, we'll be watching the developments, Andy. Thanks so much for weighing in this morning.
My pleasure, Maria.
Good to see you, sir. Andy Puzder joining us there.